Okay, Beauty is making some progress here with the engine. Yeah, this is what she did. So on this side of the engine, the starter is installed. We have the water pump housing, the actual water pump, the pulley, the fan. We're ready here to install the new thermostat. We also installed the exhaust header, and for that matter, the whole entire exhaust system while the car is still here raised. Also, I took the opportunity that the radiator is not installed yet, and I put the new boots here for the steering rack. These are pain in the butt to install, but I found a trick involving a freezer. So I didn't film it, but I have a video about that, so I'm gonna put a link here maybe. Of course, before the exhaust got installed, we installed the drive shaft and the rear transmission mount and everything. And I think that's it. Sounds like a little bit of progress, but it's actually a lot, believe me. Like I said, next I'm gonna install the gasket here and the thermostat housing, so we can install the radiator and the hoses, and then I'm gonna bring you back to finish the oil system, because we still have to install the pressure relief valve, the filter, then we can pour the oil, prime the oil system, and then we're gonna install the distributor driving gear. So that's what's coming next. Okay, so the thermostat is installed with its housing and everything. The radiator is installed. I went ahead also and installed the carburetors, which I thought it was gonna be a quickie. Turns out it was easier said than done, because these manifolds don't fit very well here with the header. You see the difference in the depth of the flange. So I remember when I took the outer studs actually out, there were some spacers here, but I don't remember having spacers here. Anyway, I had to make some, because even the ones on the outside, some mysteriously disappeared. So I had to make, this is a brass bar that I just cut. And finally I was able to install these. These outer nuts are so hard to turn. You see, I even with the wrench I scratched a little bit the manifold. I'm sorry, but it is impossible. And now I'm dealing with the fuel leaks. If you remember, we had a fuel leak from here and from here, if I remember correctly. And we had fiber washers here. Unfortunately, I don't have fiber washers, but it happens that I have copper washers that fit for once. Usually all of these copper washers, nothing fits, but here turns out that I have the exact size that I need. So I'm gonna use 4 of these to replace all 4 there, so we can be done with the fuel system, or at least with the carburetors, and then we can move on this side and deal with the oil. Okay, the copper washers are installed, look great, hopefully they're gonna hold. And I was gonna install the oil filter now, but I have a little bit of a situation. I went ahead and I bought filters that I used for my Spitfire. That's what I'm using, 1085 Napa Gold or equivalent to that. And it turns out that it doesn't fit. And then I realized that I actually, years ago, I replaced my original adapter over there on my Spitfire with a 3/4 adapter, so I can have more filters available, because 3/4 threads are very common and you can buy any kinds of filters. However, on this engine it looks like it still has the original adapter, which is, I believe, 5/16 threads here. And in fact, I found this oil filter in the trunk. I know everybody's like, wow, I know. So it was in the trunk of the car, and I tested it just to see if the threads fit, and they do. Much smaller filter, and it fits perfectly. But I know they call it the orange can of death, this filter, the front filter, so I'm not gonna use it. Relax. I'm not gonna use it. I called Napa and I found that they have the equivalent, which is 1312. So this is 1085 with the 3/4 threads. This is with 5/8 threads, and the equivalent in Napa is Napa Gold 1312, which, if you don't know, Napa Gold is basically rebranded Wix filter. The Wix reference is 51312. So I ordered one in Napa. I'm gonna have to go and get it tomorrow morning. They didn't have it in my store, but they will have it tomorrow morning. So I can't proceed here with the oil system now, but at least I can install the alternator then, or the generator. We don't have alternator here. This, yeah, I don't want to use. I'm sorry. Okay, it's the next day and I installed the alternator, and I installed the generator here, but I don't know how these wires were going before. I mean, I know that the big wire is here. Like, I mean, I don't know how they were routed, because this is supposed to plug in here, but how was it reaching there? Did I install it in a different way? I don't know. Or I suspect that there was a small wire from here to here. Anyways, this is the field wire which we're gonna plug in somehow. This is the one for this oil pressure fitting here. This, I'm assuming this is the ignition wire. And this, I don't know what this is. So anyways, I got the filters that I ordered yesterday. Like, they are huge, I know, but that's not bad. They have, you see the thing in the back here, the red thing, that's anti, what is it called? Like a, it's like a check valve. It's an anti-drain valve. So apparently the oil only goes that way through these holes, but it can't return, so it won't drain back into the system. But it doesn't look like it is gonna fit again. Let me just check. I know we have to put oil on it, on the seal, but this one doesn't fit either. Oh my god. Oh, it was supposed to be 5/8 thread. Let me take out this. Like, it is, at this point we should buy an adapter, but oh, I'm so annoyed by that. It is ridiculous. You can't really find a filter for this adapter, for the original adapter. That's why they get new ones. So anyway, I went online and I can get an adapter for $10, but shipping is $20, and it's gonna come in a week. So you know what? I know where there is one adapter like this. Well, actually, first of all, let me check this. That's my MK1 engine. And I'm pretty sure that has the old adapter, but you know what? I'm gonna check it out. But if not, I know that this one here for a fact is with a 3/4 adapter, because you see I have a big oil filter here. So this engine is coming out this summer to be rebuilt anyways. I just want to finish some other projects, but I am committed to rebuild this engine and the transmission for that matter. So let me check first that old engine, and if not, we're gonna take this one out. Okay, so here we are. I removed the adapter from there with a 3/4 wrench, so that's the original. And this is the one that I got from my Spitfire. Unfortunately, my old engine, the Mark I engine, has the same one as this, so it's not of any use. And I know I could make this on the lathe, but it was gonna take me much longer, and a $10 adapter was gonna become $100 adapter. So I'm gonna use the one from my Spitfire. My Spitfire needs to be rebuilt anyways, and I'm gonna order a new one when the time comes to order parts for my other engine. For now, unfortunately, I'm gonna have to put this one on and the orange can of that, so I can actually take it for one last drive from the shed to the garage before I take the engine out. So I don't want to disassemble it completely. I want to be able to start it. Even though it has a knock, I can still start the engine and drive it around the yard, which I do. Unfortunately, I have to do that. So anyway, we're gonna put it back together, so it can be used. And this is how this adapter goes now. It fits perfectly here in this filter. So this is the 1085, but the 1312 is the same. I don't know what the difference is, but they're pretty much the same size, and they are both with anti-drain system. So supposedly it doesn't drain back into the engine, even though it sits on this angle. So we're gonna use the 1085, and from now onward it's gonna be much easier for Peter to find oil filters. And that's how this goes. I already put a little bit of oil here. Let's put a little more. Oh, I thought it wasn't gonna fit again. So finally a filter that fits. I'm gonna tighten it just by hand. You never tighten it with a wrench. Okay, so I also, in the meantime, I installed the oil pressure relief valve. To be honest, I tried to film that. Turns out I didn't film it. Am I filming now? Yeah, I'm filming now, but very often I forget to press the recording button. So the oil pressure relief valve with a new spring, because this is the old one and it was just like 3-4 millimeters shorter. This is important because the oil pressure relief valve, how it works, it has a plunger that plugs a hole between the oil gallery and the oil sump. So when the pressure in the oil gallery increases too much, the plunger pushes on the spring and it overcomes the tension, and then the oil starts pouring through the hole back into the sump. That's how we make sure that we don't make too high of a pressure and start blowing it through everywhere. So when the spring gets old and tired, the tension is looser, and now much lower pressure is able to overcome the tension of the spring, and now we can't even build pressure anymore. That's why a new spring there is always a good idea. I also put a new copper washer, and it's installed. Then we put this fitting here, which is for the aftermarket, I believe it's an aftermarket oil pressure gauge, and this wire here for the oil pressure warning light on the dash. So now we are ready to pour the oil. We're gonna pour it here or here. We're gonna put some here, and then the rest we're gonna pour here. I don't want to put on the rockers yet because I want to prime the oil system, and as I'm priming the oil system, I want to see when it's going to start showing up through the rockers here. We are using 20W50 VR1 oil by Elin. It is with added zinc, good for your camshaft and for flat tapped engines, and it is also for racing and classic cars. So I love that oil. That's what I use on all the cars that I work on, unless the owner wants something else, but usually owners already use that before I even tell them about it. So some here just to lubricate the tappets, and then the rest we can pour here. Now I'm gonna have troubles with my drills again, because when you turn, we have to turn it counterclockwise, and my drills, all of them, start smoking when you turn them counterclockwise, because the fan, the cooling fan of the drill is not cooling properly. But it is what it is. To be honest, I don't remember how much a Spitfire takes, how much oil. So we're gonna put 4 liters, and then we're gonna check the dipstick. Well, we are very close to attempting to start this engine today. Yay, and maybe even drive the car. Haven't driven it. When we got it, we made it run, but it was winter outside, so we never drove it. Of course, the filter is empty, and that takes a liter. Yeah, it's to the top notch right now, but when the filter gets filled, it's gonna take another liter, I guess. So I'm gonna put another half for now, and after we start it and all that, we're gonna probably top it up to 5. Okay, let me clean up here and we're ready to start priming it now. Alright, so if you look inside, you can see the slot down there. This slot is on top of the oil pump shaft. And on TR6 and TR4 engines, you do it the same way, but the shaft doesn't come up so high, and the bottom of the drive gear is what separates the oil gallery, which is down there, and the crankcase. Here, I think the shaft of the oil pump is long enough, going up high enough, so if we build pressure in the oil gallery, it's not gonna escape from here. Normally that's what happens. It happened to me too, and Chef Tash. On a TR4 we were using like just a screwdriver to turn the oil pump, but we weren't able to build up pressure. But I think that's not the case for this engine, because the shaft of the oil pump protrudes high into this bushing and closes this. Let's try, we will find out. If oil starts coming up through this hole, then we're gonna have to find a different tool. Actually it doesn't, so let's see. Actually we still don't have oil into the oil pump, I guess. Coco! There you go. Now it started pumping and my battery died. My drill is gonna be super tired turning counterclockwise. I need to find a tool that is I can use for that. Electric drill maybe. Let's see how good this battery is. Oil starts coming in here. That's good. You see it? Let's see what oil pressure we're building. Oh my god. Sorry, it's burping, farting and all that stuff. Let's look at the oil pressure. Okay, is it good? I don't see, you see. So I'm gonna have to check the footage. Well, that's pretty good oil pressure actually, to begin with. And you can see here it came out through everywhere around the shaft. So one thing here that I forgot is to put thread lock on this screw. I put it temporarily there and I never put thread lock. So I'm gonna take it out now. I'm gonna put thread lock on it. Also, let me double check the oil level now that we've filled the filter and the entire system. Yeah, still needs a little bit more to the top notch. It is in the middle now, so yeah, we're gonna put another half liter. Okay, so the screw is dealt with, and now it's time to install the distributor drive gear. So what the distributor drive gear does is it transfers the motion from the camshaft. This is the camshaft. The camshaft meshes with these teeth on the gear and it starts turning it counterclockwise. As it's turning it counterclockwise, this dog here engages with the slot on the oil pump shaft that we just used to prime the system. So this way we turn the oil pump as well, and this slot here engages with the dog at the bottom of the distributor. But in order to have the distributor in certain orientation, we need to make sure that we engage the teeth here in certain orientation too, because otherwise it's not going to be a big deal, but your first cylinder on the distributor might end up here or here or here or anywhere. Again, it's not a problem as long as you know where it is and you're the only one dealing with your own car, because when you take it to a mechanic and they take the spark plug wires out, if they don't pay attention, they might not be able to find where the first cylinder is. Well, they would be able to. I am always able to find them, but it takes extra time So I always pay attention before I take out the spark plug wires. I make sure to note where number 1 cylinder is on the distributor cup, and from there I know what to do. So that's why there's a standard. That's how they came out of the factory. First cylinder is on somewhere here, on the cup somewhere here, I believe. But in order to achieve that, we need to engage the gear in a certain way. For that, we need to find top dead center of the first cylinder, and I put my wrench here on the generator nut, and it is spinning. It's not very easy. The belt is spinning a little bit, but I'm helping myself with the fan. Okay, the spark plugs are out too, so we don't have compression. Now we are at top dead center, but is that first cylinder? No. Oh yeah. Yeah. Number 4 is now here where the 2 valves are equally open. Remember that position when we timed the engine? Because first and fourth share the same top dead center, right? First though is a top dead center on the firing stroke. So in this position of the crankshaft and the camshaft and everything, our gear needs to be in this position. So if you notice, this slot here is not going through the center, it's a little bit offset towards the engine, and it points at, I would say, 930 and 330. That's more or less where it needs to be. But the teeth on the gear are a little bit diagonal, so as it goes down, it's gonna turn clockwise, right? That's why we wanna put it maybe a little bit before that position. No, that's maybe one more tooth. Like that. And now it needs to go further down. Now it is not engaged with the oil pump. So if we start turning the engine now and pushing on the gear, it eventually is gonna engage with the pump. Okay. I'm pushing down on it. There you go. It went down. But now, to make sure that we're in the right spot, we're gonna turn the engine back. I'm gonna put it at top dead center. Which is here. And it is kind of horizontal. No, I don't like it like this. So I'm gonna do one more tooth. Now it created vacuum and I can't pull it out. I need pliers. So maybe it was fine where it initially was. I don't know. So we want it to be one tooth clockwise. Okay. So now we're gonna do that again. There you go. Now it engaged quickly. So again, we're gonna go back to top dead center. Right there. And this is, okay, it's more like 10 and 4 o'clock, not 9:30 and 3:30, but yeah, okay. I like this position better. You see it? That's how it is. The slot is towards the engine and it shows, I would say, 10 and 4. Anyway, that's where we're gonna leave it. Now I can install the distributor pedestal. We already measured the end play of the gear before, of this gear, so we know that we're gonna use one gasket there. Okay, so the pedestal is installed and there's this bolt in the back here that goes through. That is to hold your bracket that holds your distributor in place. You see it has this ear. Peter was telling me before that he couldn't affix the distributor in one place, and I'm suspecting that this bolt in the back was not there. To be honest, I don't remember if I took it out. I don't remember if it was there or not, but now we're gonna see. We're gonna make sure that the shaft of the distributor engages with the gear, and you know it can only engage in one way. And we know that we are at top dead center right now, and you see the rotor points exactly towards first cylinder. I'm just gonna test it to see if it is gonna engage the other way. Yeah, it falls in place here at number 4 as well, but it's not very secure because that's where the offset of the shaft of the slot on top comes in place. So yeah, it needs to be this way. So now we're gonna put the bolt through. Maybe it was there, I don't know. Maybe this bracket wasn't tightening enough, I don't know. We'll see now. Yeah, it's nice and solid now. Okay, I'm gonna leave it loose though because we need to set the ignition timing. Okay, something like that. It has electronic ignition, no points, so positive goes to the positive of the coil, negative goes to the negative of the coil, and I still have to deal with these wires here. Need to extend them somehow. I don't like this, but I need to extend them somehow to plug into the field terminal of the generator, and I have absolutely no idea what this wire is. I'm gonna have to go and watch my old video because this wiring is modified, and I don't really want to start digging into the schematic if I don't need to. If I can find where this wire was plugged, and if that was just loose here, then I can just trust that everything is okay. Okay, I actually found the little extension that was from here, and it was plugging into this conjunction here of wires, but I decided to eliminate few of the connections, and I made this double wire that plugs into the original harness here and into this blue wire, which I'm not really sure why is there, but that's how it was running before. That's how Peter made it, and it was running, so it's good. Now, the temperature, if you remember, we had no temperature reading on this car, and I figured that the temperature sender was not good, and I ordered a new one. And how you check it is by checking for continuity. The continuity needs to be between ground and the terminal, but this one doesn't have anything, doesn't show anything. So obviously that was a problem, but when the engine was running, I tried something. I disconnected this wire from here and I connected it to ground, which should make the gauge go all the way up, and it didn't. So that's not the only problem. Anyway, I bought another one, and look, we can check this one. For example, if we touch this to ground and this here, there you go. Right now we have 1 kilo ohm of resistance, because the engine is cold. The warmer it becomes, the lower the resistance. But anyway, I know for a fact that this was a problem, but I know for a fact that there was another problem somewhere, because when I connected this to ground, didn't do anything to the gauge. So I went and I checked the voltage stabilizer as well, and that was a problem. Let me show you. I checked it a few weeks ago and I found out that it was bad, so I ordered a new one, and I'll show you what I got. Okay, so I wanted to test the voltage stabilizer just to see if that's the issue. And I keep this analog voltmeter for that reason, because voltage stabilizer doesn't give you steady 10 volts. It has a bimetal points inside that open and close whenever they need to, so they give you average of 10 volts at the end, but they are either on or off. They don't reduce the voltage. So we have 13.84 whatever volts input now. So if you go with the digital multimeter, it goes crazy. You can't even catch a number, but with the analog you can see the needle bouncing back and forth. However, for this particular one, look what's going on. Oh my god, I need to clean up my workbench, I'm sorry. When I put one probe to the ground and one to here, and it gives me 7 volts steady, which is weird. This tells me that the contacts are closed but not very well, so it creates resistance inside and it reduces the voltage a little bit, which somebody was commenting before. This can cause fire, you know, because you have a bad contact between the points and it is overheating. I just took a digital multimeter just in case to see what's going on. And yes, 6.5, almost steady. So this one is garbage. So I'm sending this one and the one from my burnt TR6 to Dave Conant in US, and he's sending me his solid state ones that he makes. I'll put his contacts here so you can contact him if you want to and order yours as well. So I could have ordered a new one. There's solid state ones that are available that use only electronics, but they're not great quality either, because the aftermarket parts nowadays are not great. Well, that's why I contacted Dave Conant. So this is his business card. Dave Conant is in Ohio, and he's an engineer who has been a printed circuit designer for over 40 years before he retired. He owns a TR4 and he had lots of issues with his voltage stabilizer, so finally he said, you know what, I'm done with that, I'm gonna make my own. So he took the internals out of his voltage stabilizer and he made his own. And it worked so well that he actually started selling them now for 45 US plus shipping, of course. And he's asking kindly to people to send back their old ones so he can continue making new ones. He sold over 200 actually. You can see here he has a serial number for each and every one. This is 207. I bought 206 and 207 because I need one for my TR6. And he says that after selling over 200 of these, he never ever got a return. Also, he says that each voltage stabilizer is tested at 3 different stages of assembly, with the final test being a 24-hour operating cycle with 150% of its normal load. So Dave is really making sure that he's selling a good product. It's not the solid state voltage stabilizers that you buy that are made who knows where with no quality control or anything. So I strongly recommend using Dave Conant's services for that. He also has a YouTube channel called Dave's TR4A, where he shows a little bit of his trips around North America, which he goes with his TR4. He also developed a overdrive controller, which disengages your overdrive when you go through neutral, for example. So you have ultimately with A-type overdrive, you have 7 close ratio speeds. So anyway, comes with instructions. I'm gonna read them now to make sure that I follow everything. But basically you have input 12 volts or 14 volts or whatever your generator or alternator gives you. You have ground, and then you have 10 volt output here. You have 2, one for your temperature gauge, one for your fuel gauge. Just so you know why this is needed, because your generator and your alternator give you different voltages at different times, right? So your voltage varies between 12 and 14 volts, but your fuel gauge and your temperature gauge work based on voltage that goes through a resistor, which is your senders. So these are variable resistors, and depending on the resistance, the voltage that comes to the gauge changes. But if your voltage and your resistance vary all the time, the gauge is going to get confused. That's why we make sure that we have stable 10 volts input, and then only the resistance varies, and then the gauge can read accurately. So that's the idea of the voltage stabilizer. I'm gonna go install it now, just so we can have a temperature gauge, and we're gonna go from there. Okay, we're almost there. So I don't know what I filmed last, but yeah, we're charging the battery. We have the valve cover on. I put rubber washers under these washers. Basically what I do is I have a whole bunch of these. Like I have this kit, so I take one of these grommets and I cut it right in the middle, and I use them as rubber washers there. They don't last long, I mean they disintegrate after you remove them, but at least they're gonna last once here. So the cover is there. I put my electric fuel pump here It's not mine actually, it's Chef Tash's, but I use it as mine. I have one too, but I keep it safe, and I expose David Tashinghams to wear and tear. Filled up the coolant system, and unfortunately we have a leak. You see it right there under the pump. You see it's coming from inside the pump. Initially I thought that I didn't tighten the bolts, but it's coming from inside. There is a seal somewhere inside that looks like we disturbed. The funny part though is that initially it started dripping like crazy. I even put a bucket underneath and look how much it leaked into it, and then it stopped. Now it is dripping, but once every 10 seconds maybe. Initially it was like pouring. So I don't know, maybe it's gonna seal again. Maybe it's one of these seals that need to be wet to seal. So maybe it just dried out, I don't know. We will see. We're gonna start the engine like that anyway, and if it drips, then we're gonna have to get a new oil pump and a new water pump, obviously. But I think it's gonna last for a while like that. Charging the battery right now. So the only thing that we need to do now is install the spark plug wires and do the timing, and then we're gonna be able to start it. For that I put the engine in top dead center. If you can see down there, I'm gonna turn it to about 6 degrees before top dead center. Like the spec says all kinds of things, including 10 degrees after top dead center. For some engines with vacuum retard and whatever, I'm gonna put it at about 6 before top dead center. That's gonna be close enough to start the engine initially, and then we're gonna adjust it by feel, by ear, by, like, if we are able to take it on a test drive eventually, we're gonna adjust, we're gonna fine tune it. So let me try and turn it now. There you go. That is 6 to 8, something like that. It's not so critical. And you can see that the rotor now is pointing towards cylinder number 1. So when we put the cap on, this is our cylinder number 1, and from there it's gonna be 1, 3, 4, 2. This cap is cracked actually here, but it was running before, so I'm sure it's gonna be good enough. Inside the terminals look good, so I'm not worried about it. Peter had his wires marked before, so I'm gonna keep them in the same order. So that's number 3. I'm just gonna let them hang for now. And then this should be number 1. Yeah, number 1 we're not gonna put on because we're gonna need it for the timing. I'll show you how we're gonna do that, but we know that it goes here on the road, on the distributor. So we have 1, 3, 4, 2. And the most important one, of course, from the coil to the center of the cap. And I had the ignition wire disconnected before, do you see that? Because when I turned the ignition on, I didn't want the electronic ignition to be powered up. So now we're gonna plug it in, the ignition is off. So now we're gonna find ourselves a spark plug, and we're gonna try to zap ourselves. And I'm gonna put it somewhere so you can see, maybe here, and I'm gonna run ground to it. Is that gonna stay? Yeah, like that. Okay, we have ground. So now I'm gonna turn the ignition on. First I'm gonna tell you what I'm doing. I'm gonna turn the distributor way retarded. So I'm gonna turn the ignition on, and I'm gonna start advancing it. So instead of turning the rotor counterclockwise on the top, as it normally turns, we are turning the distributor towards the rotor. And because we are exactly at the spot where we want first cylinder to fire, eventually, when we see a spark here, that's where we're gonna stop, and we're gonna tighten the distributor there. So here we go. I don't want to keep the ignition on for a long time because of the electronic ignition. So quickly The ignition is on and we're turning. There you go. That was our spark. Turn the ignition off and we can tighten the bolt. So the distributor doesn't move anymore. Now we can remove this spark plug and connect it to the cylinder number 1. Okay, now we need fuel and we're good to go. Okay, so we have a jug of fuel here. The fuel pump, the hose is here, away from moving parts and hot parts, feeding directly the carburetors. We have coolant, we have spark, we have everything that's needed. The pump is pumping, I already tested it. I can hear the fuel coming. In this case, I think we are ready to crank it. Yeah, let's get crack-a-lacking. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna disconnect the coil, the power to the coil from here, and I'm gonna turn the ignition on so I have control from over there, because I need to be on the other side, right? What am I forgetting? I think I'm forgetting something, am I? I don't know. I don't think so. Then let's turn the fuel on. I have fire extinguisher over there, just in case. There's one behind you, in case you need one. Okay, pump is on. The ignition is on now, and I can crank it from here. There's a push button on the solenoid. So let's see. Oh, she's ready to start. What's that noise? Nah. Oh, the header is rubbing on the frame. Oh, scared the shit out of me. The header, how come the header is rubbing on the frame now? Anyway. Okay, yeah, the leak is leaking badly. Okay. But we have oil pressure, which is good. Wow, look at that. She's idling like... Wow. Well, I guess we're ready for a test drive, right? Okay. Actually, nice and smooth. Just, how's that possible? The header is rubbing against the frame. Like, it scared me for a second, you know? Actually, the leak is getting better. No. Unfortunately, we're gonna need a new water pump. Okay, let's warm it up and see if the temperature is gonna move. For now, it's still down. The oil pressure is about 60, which should be a little bit higher on a cold engine, but it is what it is. We know that everything is good down there. Wow, she idles like a charm. Now I'm thinking, was this the car that had a shim between the engine mount and the engine? I guess that's why. Yeah, we're gonna have to shim the engine a little bit. Oh, I thought for a second that I wasn't filming and I was gonna scream. Okay. So you see, right there, the header is rubbing on the frame. But we have PCIs, we have temperature now moving up, we have fuel. We have to make sure, we have to check that and see why that's happening. Let's check the generator, because it doesn't show anything, but I want to make sure that we're charging. Finally, after so many months, this engine is running. 1256, 1257. It's not great. That's not great for, but it is a generator, right? Did we check it before? Let's rev it. Yeah. Going at 13.5 at whatever that is, 2000 RPM. So it is charging. The problem is at idle, it's not charging a lot. But that's why I don't like generators, right? That's why I convert to alternators whenever I can. But anyway, she idles like great. Temperature is steady now. Yeah, looks like the leak is done leaking now after making a mess on my floor. But yeah, I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna put a shim here between the engine mount and the engine. I think there was one before. If I remember correctly, there was some kind of a surprise here. For now, I just have my pry bar there. But yeah, I think next is we're gonna put the dash together, since we know that the temperature gauge is working properly now. We're still at 55, 60 psi, which is great. And once we put the dash together, we might try to go for a test drive, because I can't wait to see how everything performs on this car before we put the trans cover and all that. And yeah, that's great news. And of course, tomorrow morning I'm very, very curious to check the compression on a cold engine. Well, it's been almost half an hour now. She warmed up nicely and she's idling like charm. Unfortunately, the oil pressure dropped a little, not a lot, but it is below 50 now, which is not bad, but it is not improved from before. The temperature is still good, but it is becoming really, really stinky in the garage, so I'm gonna turn her off. Turn off the pump as well. Okay. It's getting really stinky here, so I'm gonna go outside and call Peter now, just to give him the good news that she is back up and running. I just don't know what's gonna happen with this water pump. We're gonna keep an eye on it. Hopefully it's not gonna start leaking again when it's cold or something. We'll see, but yeah, the oil pressure is the same as before, which I didn't expect anything different because we didn't change anything there. The bearings are still 010 and the crankshaft hasn't been machined other than the taper removed from the first journal. 40 at idle is not bad. I mean, when you rev it, it goes to 65, so it's good. I'm happy with that. My Spitfire was like almost 0 at idle. Anyways, so, but I'm happy. It started real easy, like we didn't even need to move the distributor or anything. It is just fantastic. Nothing needed to be adjusted. Of course, we're gonna take it on the road and we're gonna test drive it. We're gonna see Hopefully we don't need to touch the carburetors because I don't know much about these. Peter told me that they have been jetted properly years ago and they are adjusted specifically for this engine, so hopefully that they don't need to be touched. Electronic ignition, so nothing to touch there, just the timing. Well, I'm happy, I'm real happy with that. So we're gonna put an end to this episode here, and I'm gonna start taking care of the little things here on my own. I mean, I'm gonna shim the engine a little bit, I'm gonna put the dash together, then I'm gonna see what's going on with the fuel tank, because Peter told me before that he put fuel in the tank and then a few days later it was gone. So he thinks that there might be a leak somewhere, so we're gonna investigate that as well. And there are a few little things that we need to take care of, but I don't see bugs with the engine that need to be taken care of other than the water pump. So the interior needs to be put together, obviously, but we want to do that after the first test drive. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be in the next episode because, like I said, this one is ending here. Thank you so much for watching, commenting, subscribing, sharing, and especially for supporting the channel, because your support is what's keeping the camera rolling, so I really appreciate that. So if you're not a supporter and you wish to become one, there's links in the description of the video to my Patreon page, to a PayPal, so you can make a monthly subscription through Patreon, or you can donate just once any amount that you want through PayPal. It is up to you, but it is not mandatory because I'm not cutting the access to those who are not able to support me or don't feel like it. Everybody has access to everything, and only the people who feel like supporting me a little bit are doing it without buying anything for themselves, which is highly appreciated. So anyways, enough rambling. Thank you so much for watching again, guys, and stay tuned for the next episodes. I'll see you then. Bye.